As always, it is in the contract a legal requirement as stated by the lawyers. Just want to make sure that they are happy that everything has been seen. You have seen one bicep right there, and there is the other bicep right there. It's definitely not something that I made up just so I can show off my biceps at the start of every show. Definitely not something like that whatsoever. So we have a special guest on today. It is Kiwi Sam, but it is Sam Busby is his real name, and from New Zealand originally and has moved over to Adelaide recently. And he has been in the sport for six or 7 years now. But great to have you here, and welcome to the show.
No, thank you for having me on. That's awesome.
All right. How long has it actually been that you've been training?
It's been coming up 7 years next year, but I'd say about 6.5, just to play it safe at this point. Yeah. So
I want exact dates. Like if you say 7 and it's only been 6.5, I'm gonna find out. It's funny, isn't it? Because it's like a kid when they're when you ask them how old they are, and they're like, "I'm 3 3/4."
Yeah, 3.5 to just make it bigger, around the number.
Yeah, I'm 3.5. It's like, so you're 3. Same with arm wrestling, it seems. It's like, 5 years and 21 days.
Yeah. 360 months.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I've been in just over 5 years. I can't actually remember exactly what it is, but it's coming up to around 5.5, I think. But so you jumped into the sport in Auckland, and what was the thing that attracted you to arm wrestling?
I didn't even know it was a sport, really. I was sort of always into like lifting weights, but my neighbor next door at the time spoke to my family who I was living with and said, "Look, we're training arm wrestling on Wednesday nights. You should come along and have a go." And I turned up, and just never stopped from there. It was like a bad addiction. Just as soon as I started, I just loved it. It was awesome. So here I am now. So yeah.
So it was your next door neighbor was into it.
Yeah, he was into it, and he was hosting the club there at the time. And then eventually it migrated into my garage, and then from there it just stayed with me. And then we sort of shared between me and my good friend James, who's like my coach as well. We migrated between us, his place and my place, and then once COVID hit, everything sort of fizzled out at a lot of clubs, I imagine. And then I eventually started trainings in a park, a place called Windsor Park, doing trainings there once a week, and then we migrated back into my family's garage again. So.
Oh, okay. So it's still is. Where is it now? Because obviously you're over
here. Yeah. So I think it's starting to pick back up again. They have started resuming trainings again at Windsor Park. So I'm hoping that it sort of expands and grows into someone's garage or goes from there.
It's funny to think that it needs to grow to get to a garage level.
Yeah, and it's quite niche in New Zealand, so it does take a lot of get up and go for things to get going sometimes. So, but it's good. Yeah. It's good. I'm hoping for the best. So,
is that one of the only clubs that in Auckland, or is there?
No, there's a few. We were called the North Shore Arm Wrestling Club, and then we have another club in Victoria Park called the Auckland Arm Benders. We had another one called the Black Silk, and we have Charles Pooty's club, which was Fresh Meat, and they train on Saturdays as well at 1 p.m.
Oh, right. So you got a whole bunch of them going on over there.
Yeah, I think there'd be about 4 or 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, we've got a few people who have jumped in to say hello. We've got French Siren, arm wrestler and singer. She says, Kiwi Invasion. Hey, Sam. And we've also got Lazy Hook, who I'm guessing knows you because he says, if Sam is ever losing a match, just yell, "Cameras on," and he becomes unbeatable. Bro.
Yeah, that's sort of a running joke where if you say the camera's on, power increases by about 20%. So
It's like in the gym, we always say, she's looking. It's like,
Just
oh,
don't get
she's
caught. Look,
looking.
just don't,
Go a bit harder.
just don't look back.
Oh, exactly right. And so the club that was running there. So when you moved it into the garage, how many members were you running with?
Probably on a good day, would have 7 or 8 guys. On a big day, maybe 12 or 13. I mean, this is only like a single port garage, so it's a
Mhm.
lot of bodies to fit in. So it was good. We had a really good camaraderie, really good group, a lot of mutual respect between members, and I just really enjoyed the club members we had. Yeah, it's sort of like that fun thing about table practice where you sort of build that like arm wrestling family you have, I suppose, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood you get from it, all the
Mm.
banter and laughs. So yeah.
Yeah, it was well, every week on a certain night, and that would be arm wrestling night, and everyone would come over, and you'd have a good time.
Yeah, well, we used to train on Wednesday, so it's sort of middle of the week, so it sort of gives you something to look forward to, if that makes sense. So, um, yeah, we all really just enjoyed it, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, look forward
Mm.
to going and training back with them when I get back home over Christmas or whenever it is I'm back home.
Yeah. Do you think you'll be stronger by the time you get back?
Well, I'd hope so. Hope so. Yeah, yeah. We'll see how we go. I might go over and be like, well, everyone's got a lot stronger, so I have to get even stronger now.
That's right. Yeah, the
Yeah.
last thing you want is to come back and be like, not nowhere near as the same level as everyone else, and like, hang on a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. But I mean, the great thing about the South Australian Titans and you yourself included is just the amount of arms that I've got to pull, and the strength levels really range a lot from super super strong to guys who are just coming to the sport. So the more arms you pull, the more exposure you get, and the more time on the table you can get. Really works on everything you could want with table practice. Really.
Yeah, it's one of those things as well with, and I found that when you get new people in, and you have to explain how a technique works or break it down, it helps you to understand it uh, even on a deeper level, because to be able to explain it to somebody else, like you've got to actually think, or how does it work? Like, why am I
Hmm.
doing that? So yeah, it gives you that framework as to why am I getting in these positions, and what can I do that's going to benefit me and make it harder for my opponent, and trying to convey that to another person. Whereas if you don't do much teaching, it can be quite difficult. And you're like, I don't know, you just put your hand and you just do it, like.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to get better at articulating yourself and being able to really break down and describe what it is you're trying to achieve with that individual as well. Whether you're trying to teach them how to be safe, how to apply side pressure, how to, you know, work on hand control, or the components that break down from you've got, shoulder, then you come into the elbow, and then the forearm, and then the wrist and fingers, and then you explain why you're doing something and what it's trying to achieve, and what you can do in your spare time or accessory work to then work on your weaknesses.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. And as you said, we were talking last night, you don't want to overwhelm someone on their first time when they come in.
Yeah,
I always feel like this when somebody comes into the club for us, especially if it's their first night, that they would be walking out going, "Man, I have 30 people telling me something different." Like, and you just try to remember, like, there's
yeah,
way too much. So yeah, it's just like you said, you don't worry about all of the small little things. If they're not getting all of the things perfect, it doesn't matter. But if they're just getting the fundamental movements correct, and it's like, okay, just making sure that using their back pressure is the first. It's like, just get that part sorted, because that's, you're going to need to do that every single time. And then the cupping of the wrist and all the rest of it, you're adding in slowly, once they sort of get the idea of it. But yeah, I've seen it when somebody's got on with someone before who's just given them way too much at once, and they're like, I just wanted to jump on and have a go. Like, I didn't want you to be telling me 10 minutes worth of like the history of arm wrestling.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You sort of have to drip feed it a little bit to new guys because you want them to get excited to come back and keep learning. if you tell them too much, they just it sometimes can go through one ear and out the other, and then they just get confused and they sort of you don't want them developing bad habits over the first couple of sessions, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think for me, as long as they're enjoying themselves, and it's sort of like if they're getting the majority of the movement correct, it's like, okay, that's great. You're doing really well with that. Continue what you're doing there, and then every now and then you just add a slight little. It's like, okay, yeah, that's perfect what you're doing there. Maybe if you just cup your wrist a little bit more, you see how and you're just sort of explaining things, not all at one time, but
Mm,
it's like keep doing what you're doing because what you're doing is great, but just add this little bit in. And
yeah.
now you see how it's like way better, yeah, and whatever, how it is.
Yeah, it's also really important to keep these new guys safe as well on the table. Like that's my first sort of thing is safety, then technique. Because once you think about safety and then technique comes along, it just makes it easier to start applying the power safely, if that makes sense. And you're just not putting yourself into dangerous positions, or you don't want to be getting really injured in the first 6 months of arm wrestling. That will come down the track maybe at some point. Hopefully not, but yeah, you just want to make sure that these guys can come back and know that they can train safely and that, they're not going to risk doing some damage to themselves early on.
Yeah, who was I talking to? And they said if you've injured yourself in arm wrestling, it's because of something that you've done. It's like,
Yeah,
which is kind of accurate, I think. Like if usually if you get an injury, it's you've put yourself in a bad spot, or you've done. It's very rare that you're doing everything perfect and then something goes wrong. Like it's
yeah,
like no,
exactly.
you were like way out of your arm, pulling with nothing but side pressure. I don't know. It's one of those parts of the sport, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, tendons and bones are different to muscles, like a bone and tendon can take 2 weeks, sometimes up to 6 weeks to fully heal, depending on the amount of damage, but a muscle can take 48 hours to heal. And I think that's sort of the confusion that guys get sort of don't tend to understand is that like it is very sore. It's because you're not used to having to load your tendons at doing 1 RMs for maybe a minute straight. Getting stretched open, breaking down the tendon elasticity, and then having to wait for it to reharden and strengthen back up. It's one of those things that you really have to let guys know it's going to hurt for a while, but as you progress and you start to understand your body and like knowing when to stop or when to let something go, you're just going to avoid any damage to yourself, and you're not going to be grabbing your arm like 5 minutes into the session in so much pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It does take such a long time to get that conditioning. And I think that it contributes to the reason as to why you look at, say, the top 10 in the world and the majority of them are over 40 years old, because it seems to just take that long to build that level of conditioning in the joints, in the ligaments, in the tendons that all surround, the elbow, the wrist, and being able to withstand those enormous strains, especially at those higher levels. You think, like, if somebody's absolutely mega strong, and they're going against another dude who's just on their level or better, and it's like you better have some integrity in your bones and joints there, because there's a lot of force that's going to be driven down on that table.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you get two guys who are very similar strength and have been arm wrestling about the same time, it can be like micro movements or like can be 10 or 20% difference in just strengths and who tests their frame a bit more. That's how the match is going to end. Um,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure, and that's the matches that are the most exciting, are the ones when it's not a wipeout, when it's two people that are relatively close, and maybe one of them is significantly stronger, has a strength advantage, but this guy here has such a technical game, and that becomes that fun question of, is his ability of technique going to overpower the strength aspect, or is he just too strong and it doesn't matter, he can blast through him no matter what? So yeah, there's so many little things that can make matches just incredible. But yeah, I think if you've got just like a setup match where it's like, oh, well, this guy's obviously going to crush the other dude, unless they have a bit of a play and try to mess around a bit. It's just going to be one-sided.
Yeah, exactly. Watching Ron Barth versus Zurab Tabaretse was just an amazing match. Just how the strength levels is just like it's literally like I said, that 5 or 10% that could, if they were 5 or 10% stronger, it might have been a wipeout. But it was such a close match just based on Ron Barth's experience and Zurab's explosive, consistent side pressure, and they're both very similar style in terms of just having a massive amount of side pressure. So it's just who gasses out first, really. But yeah, amazing match,
Yeah, well, that was fun. Interesting thing with what Ryan said when he faced Ron Barth over in Ireland, and he said he's just Ron's side pressure was just constant. Like, when somebody will give you like everything they've got, but he didn't relent. Like, it just stayed at that 100% level, and
Mm,
it was like he's like, when is he going to get tired? When is the
yeah,
gap of where he takes a breath or whatever? And it just didn't. It just continued like
yeah.
non-stop 100% side pressure for, I don't know, 30 seconds or something. So, which he said, I've never experienced something like that.
No, it's just different levels. You go from a national level, then to a professional level, and then you go to the elite level, and it's just the strength gap gets bigger and bigger, and it's you just there's only so much you can do. At some point, it will just be like one of the things where you need to just be arm wrestling like for 20 years to be able to compete with some of these guys. It just you can't rush it. It's arm wrestling's a marathon, not a sprint, so you just need to pace yourself and not burn out in the process.
Absolutely, yeah. It is one of those things that is great about the sport, that you can jump into it and you'll have basically the rest of your life to be able to compete in arm wrestling
Yeah.
until you get to a point where you literally just cannot do it anymore. And maybe that's what 70, 80 years old or something. But up until then, I mean, look at John Brzezinski. He's still like number 3 in the world or something in his weight class at 60 years old.
Still so competitive. It's amazing to see. There is no age limit in arm wrestling, like you said, until you physically cannot. But yeah, it's just I've pulled guys who are in I think the oldest guy I've pulled, who was so strong, was 70 years old back in NZ, and he was once he gets onto his side of the table in practice, you'll struggle to pull him back. Just
Wow.
everything in his side pressure and hand is just mega. So it's quite a different level of strength when you feel that power at someone who's in their 60s or 70s.
Yeah, it's such an anomaly. It's such a strange thing to think that somebody that at that age is doing like a combat sport or a power sport or a strength sport and dominating. And it's like, you think, okay, well, between 20 and 30, maybe 20 and 35, that's where you find your absolute peak for this. But it's like, no, 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 it's much later than that for arm wrestling for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, if someone at that age gets into a boxing ring, everyone just actually says, "I feel bad for him. He shouldn't be putting more damage to his body like that." But arm wrestling, everyone's like, "Yeah, why not jump in? Like, we'd love to have you back."
Yeah, and then they do well.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
Was it Alan
insane.
Fisher? Like, how old is Alan Fisher? He's been around like in arm wrestling for like 50 years or something.
Yeah, Richard Lupkeys as well. He's been arm wrestling for a very long time as well. I don't know if he's very active anymore, but yeah,
Mm,
I mean, you look at the guy now, and he's still a monster. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to bring up your. We had a couple of matches. You sort of jumped in last minute to help out, which was awesome because Tyler had a match scheduled, but unfortunately, Stretch, who was supposed to go against, got sick on the day or the day before or something. And you jumped in to save the night. But this was after that. So you had the match with Tyler, and then you've jumped on with Juggernaut here for a left arm match, and
yeah.
yeah, so it was sort of, you're coming into it had a match. That you weren't expecting, you weren't training for this. It was just you've turned up and gone, oh, okay, yeah, sure, let's do 2 super matches in a row.
Yeah, it's all right. It was a good fun. I needed a bit more match prep. I haven't done any comps for a few months, so it was really good to get back on the table. And it's just training with the guys. And the good thing about losing is you learn from it. And like Juggernaut right here, he's one of those guys who um, has such consistent side pressure, and his arm power is unbelievable for the amount of time he's been arm wrestling. So give him another 3 or 4 years, he's going to be like a really, really high level arm wrestler, because his frame and build is just like Sasho's, and just he can back up the power too. So he's always really good to train with. I always enjoy training with him. So
Absolutely. Well, here we're about to see. I'm going to start the match, and you can talk us through the rounds. But so, just as you're getting set up here, what was your game plan on this? Did you know he was going to go inside, and you're happy to go there with him, or?
I was just trying to test to see where I was at. I've sort of had some wrist problems in my left for a while, so I was just unsure how my wrist was going to handle it. And yeah, in this first round, when he initially went back inside, I just felt the pain. So yeah, I just suppose I wasn't as fired up coming like 2 minutes after my super match. I probably needed to wake up a little bit, but it's all right. It's all the learning part. You adjust as you get through a loss. So we'll see in this match. It's a pretty quick finish.
Well, let's have a look here. So get the start, and he's hit it there. Yeah. So reasonably quick pin there, but as you said, you felt the pain in your wrist. So he looked like he got the better start, and
Yeah.
then you're able to slow him down a bit around here, but you're out of position. Your palms facing the ceiling. It's only going to get worse from here, I think. And he manages to get the pin. So after that first round, were you? I need to make an adjustment, or?
Yeah, I need to commit my shoulder a bit more, match his line, because he was very much pushing for center. So my thought was, okay, well, I'll bring my shoulder forward a bit more and just fight for the center as well, and just match his line. So we'll see in the next round. I make an adjustment, and you'll see me much more further forward.
Right, let's have a look. We'll bring that up. Well, yeah, you are a lot more forwards here.
Yeah, came up a bit taller, tried to protect my pronator a bit more and stay a bit higher as well. And if I needed to go into a hook to match him, I would just test it.
Okay, well, let's have a look how it plays out. Oh, Marty wasn't happy with that call. You could see I'm down there at eye line, Marty. I could see it was a pin.
Yeah,
but,
I'm just like whatever the ref calls, I don't mind. If it's a win, it's a win. I'm not going to argue.
That was good round because you've caught him on that start. And we go back to the start of it here. So.
Yeah, I'm not the fastest hitter, so sometimes you have to catch and then surge through your attack.
Yeah, that's what you've done. So he's got that first center, but you've got a cup out of it, and now you've started rolling towards the pad. He's changed to holding in the bicep.
Yeah, he has a very strong bicep lock, so it is very awkward to try figure out how much you need to keep going onto his arm there. So
yeah. And it does look, this is what people could get annoyed about watching these replays, because, on those first couples, it does look like, that's the pin there. Well, sorry, that was the pin. But, the earlier ones, it's like, oh, well, surely that's a pin. Surely that's a pin. It's like, you don't realize the camera is at a different angle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes it looks like you got a pin, but when you're reffing or you're actually seeing it there, it's a lot different.
That's right, and so my eyes are right in line with that pin pad, but the camera is sitting above at a downwards angle, so it's going to give you a false illusion that. But I've just heard people say that before, like, "Oh, it's obviously a pin on the camera." And it's like, yeah, the camera's not at eye level.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're 1-1 here going into the third round. What was the idea? Go with the same strategy?
Yeah, I didn't come in as much with my shoulder. I thought maybe I could try coming for an outside attack with applying side pressure, but yeah, he just took me off center first, and we'll see in the video that I end up having to go into bicep lock and cupping him in and trying to bring him back.
All right, let's have a look. So he's got the center again.
Yeah, and my shoulder's not committed in, so.
All right, so you brought him back to the middle.
Yeah.
Now he's holding you. And that was a pin. Yeah. Again, it's the camera angle, but it was a pin. I
Yeah.
was watching. Bring that up. Is that the one?
That's the third
Have I
match.
gone? I've gone back too far. What am I doing? I'm losing my spot here. There we go. There we go. So you can see, look, I'm looking dead straight across that table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying this because Marty was annoyed about it, but I could see like his wrist went under the pin line.
Yeah. I mean, it's different when you're looking at parallel, and that's why they set up the cameras at WAF, so that they can physically see if there's a protest that no, it wasn't actually a pin, or if there was a slip in a losing position, like because they're so explosive, some of the Europeans. So sometimes it's just you blink and you're like, what actually happened? We need to stop and see.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the referee's position. But if you've said go and they've pinned within like a quarter of a second, it's like good luck trying to get your head down there to get eye level to see what happened. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. It's the
so
hard part about being a ref because you know that you're not going to be everyone's favorite, and you know that sometimes the call you make can be controversial, but you just have to do what you can. There's no perfect decision, but if you feel that it's the right one, then generally just go with your gut feeling.
exactly. All right, so we've got a 2-1 lead for you here going into the fourth round. So you're a little bit back for the shoulder here. It's not as forwards. What was the plan on this one?
I think it was just go for the same angle. I felt like I had the right lane set up, but yeah, I think my arm was starting to get a bit pumped by then, so I just had to try finish the match because he's got pretty good endurance as well. So I didn't want to. I should have just kept. In some ways, I need to just be more aggressive in my attacks instead of just trying to talk my way through. But and that's part of the learning.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a look at this round play out. So you've won the center there. He's cupped in with the bicep lock. He's pulling it up. You've hit hard again. Pretty close, but not quite a pin now. He's attacking. You've brought it back. You're really close again,
Yeah,
but he's still
that's what I mean. The
holding it.
camera angle, it looks like I got a pin on that third round, but it's different perspectives. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he got it, and he brought it back, and he got the pin. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to keep bringing my elbow forward to adjust to bring him back and surge, but once he pulled me out of center, my arm got opened up, so not much I could do in terms of I don't have enough side pressure or I'm not going to put my frame on the line to just pull him out of there.
Yeah, it's fair. So 2-2 going into the last round here. How were you feeling at this point? You were like,
my wrist and hand was all pumped up, so once I just felt like I had no access to my cup, and I think I was a bit gassed out, but that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, absolutely. Plus, you just had a match previous to this as well.
And you'll see Marty's shoulder line and the way he's coming into centres is much more aggressive than mine. I really need to work on matching the lines, but as you get tired, you become a bit lenient in yourself. So,
well, let's have a look because I think this round was one of the best ones that I've seen play out. But so you've both sort of stuck in the middle there. Both getting a decent cup position. Marty's dragging hard, but you're holding it hard with your bicep.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could work my way out. I should have tried to flatten out our hands a bit more, but I was trying to work on seeing if I could work on being more endurance and see if I could outlast him. But when a guy has consistent side pressure, you have to be very careful in how you choose your next move, because as soon as you let up something, they just take a little bit more ground off you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And it was a very good match, though. Like, it was hard fought, back and forth between both of you guys. And right here, I mean, you can see the strength of your arm. You're catching, and I mean, if that was caught there, maybe you could have worked it back in. And you heard the sound that Marty gave there. He was at his limit, I think, at that point.
It was a great match. It was really, really fun. I enjoyed it. I'm hoping to have another go. maybe in another 2 weeks or so, or whenever he's ready. But yeah, I just need some time to let my shoulders heal.
That's right. Well, we've got Neil's index finger is joined in. It says, "Hey guys, hello to you, sir. How are you?" It's funny that all these different body parts like to show up, like Devon's forearm. We've got Neil's index finger. There's Neil pickpocket. There's a whole bunch of them. It's great, and he says that the best way to beat side pressure is with better back pressure. Yeah, absolutely. But I think at that point, Sam was in a losing position about an inch from the pad. I don't think back pressure would have helped. He was sort of stuck like out here to drag back.
Yeah.
He would have stayed in the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, if he's pulling 40 kilos of downward side pressure and you're tired, like, I mean, if you're tired and you tell someone to come from an open position and bicep curl a 40-kilo dumbbell, they're going to struggle. So it's just arm wrestling, man. You just learn and get better from it. So.
Oh, that's right. Well, it was good. I mean, it was a good match. It was the first sort of go at the super matches with our club.
Yeah.
What did you think in terms of how it was ran, the rule set compared to what you're normally running with?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's really good. It's different. It will be something I get used to, but I think I do like a little bit more leniency in the rules. I think if you like, for me, I like all slips go to straps, in my opinion. I don't really like slips and losing positions. That's just me. But yeah, it all depends. Like, just learn the rules of each like club or I suppose tournament style you're going into, because it definitely helps yourself if you get unsure. I do like the strictness of like everything being fair, but sometimes being a bit more loose and being able to work and really test yourself in different lanes, whether it's you can set up how you want, and if both athletes are happy, you can go from there. Sometimes it makes it a bit more fun and more interesting. Because if you beat a guy if you beat a guy where he's fully committed in his shoulder and he's confident in his hook and press, then it's like, okay, well, what else can you do? What will you change up?
Yeah, exactly right. And Neil's index finger says sometimes it's a skill just to be able to slip, then you earn
exactly.
straps. Yeah,
Yeah,
though
exactly.
I know that Stephen the Squid Carroll, who I had on here last week, is a master at slipping and practices actually how to get it out of. He's got certain grips that he has, and it's all about just being able to let go instantly, because he never wants to pull in anything but straps. So
yeah, well, it's like any skill, you can train to get better at it. And the worst things, and you get into a match and the guy's grabbed onto your thumb or your fingers and he's not going to let go, and you're just like, well, do I continue to try or do I just dislocate my fingers for the sake of an arm wrestling match?
yeah, that's right. And Stretch, I don't know if you've been on with Stretch much, but he is a master at grabbing your fingers if you try to
Yeah.
get away, because his arm is so fucking so bloody tall. Like, he's 6'8", and you're reaching up to get his arm, and then it's like, all right, I need to slip out of this, and you try to slip, and he's just like, comp, and he just like grabs you like this, and he's pretty much just got you here, and you're like, oh, and you're going straight down. So he's very, very clever at that.
Yeah, you just have to choose wisely who you decide you want to slip against, but it's very difficult when a guy has very long levers and has great grip strength. So sometimes you're up the pedal without a creak.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And then trying to slip when they've got hold of your fingers makes you look really stupid, because you're
I hate this.
waving your hand.
I hate the finger wrestling, man. I really hate it. I'm just like, what's the point in holding on? Just let it go and just test it,
But have you seen people like get pinned, like,
Yeah, the Americans, you see it on arm wrestling TV all the time, guys getting pulled down like that in their fingers, and you're just like, oh, sort of was like, I know win's a win, but yeah, I'll take an honorable win,
Yeah, it's one of those things. It seems to be with this sport, almost like an oxymoron in some aspects, and that is that everyone feels like very supportive, and they want you to do the best that you can do, and they always improve and all the rest of it. But then in the setup part, it's all about cheating. It's all about just manipulating and cheating yourself into the best possible position to get the start. And it's like, oh, all right, that's different to everything else that we've been doing.
Mm. The worst part is if you set up fair and you've got a good grip, and then the guy's trying to cheat, and then he starts complaining that he's unhappy with the grip. You're just like, well, what do I do? I was very
Yeah.
happy with what I've got. I'm wrist a flat, man. I'm not on his knuckle, and he's still complaining. It's just like, mate, just grip up and pull.
Yeah, it's like everything I'm doing is completely fine. I've not given myself an advantage at all, and but you want to start with the advantage. You have to start
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
massive advantage, and that's not even like, well, at that point it's like, well, I might as well just start like this. Like, what do you like, what do you want to start on my fingers? Like, what? Yeah, it's very strange to have that aspect of the sport, which is so weird, because everything else is so friendly and supportive and dynamic with it, making sure that people get what they need and they can work and get better. And then it's like, but I'm just gonna cheat you so bad in that setup. It doesn't matter what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's guys at the elite level who we know are just known for trying to get exactly what they want on the setup, and you can see it. And sometimes the refs are very lenient towards that person, unfortunately. But I mean, it's just one of those things. You either negotiate the grip or you fight for what you want. I mean, you have to sort of fight for your center. You can't be pushed over to, your side of the table. You have to sort of match it and fight in a way. But I think if guys were just fair and knew, like, sort of left the meathead mentality of I've got to bully this guy in the setup. It just makes it more interesting in terms of getting matches going instead of arguing with the ref for a while trying to get exactly what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil's index finger says that he might have a right hand match against Uncle John.
Nice.
Well, that would be fantastic. I think he's got a left hand match coming up soon. He does. I can't remember whose opponent was. He jumped on the podcast the other day. Who was it? Anyway, but if you have got a match with John, that'd be amazing. Where would it be, and what date, and how do we watch it? Because I'd love to see it. But what about in the sport? Have you had people that you've sort of idolized or looked up to or have taken inspiration from?
Oh, there's always been a few. There's always the super heavyweights, but I've always looked at sort of the lighter category guys, the Daniel Prokopchuks, the Mindaugas, Terrasidas, anyone who's very proficient in their lane and is very good at it. I sort of look at what they're doing and how I can translate it to myself. But most of the guys would probably say it had to be like Devin Larratt, but I always like John Brzenk, a few of the Europeans. But yeah, Oleg Cherkizov definitely was one of my favorites for a long time. He's, just so strong for his weight. That's the one thing I love about arm wrestling is you can have a guy who is 70 kilos and he's able to pull easily through guys who are far beyond his weight.
Mm. Yeah, it's that fun aspect of the small man beats the big strong guy or whatever, and just especially when you're showing that to someone and you're like before the match, you're like, well, have a look at this guy and have a look at this guy. Who do you think is going to win? They're like, well, obviously the big dude's going to crush him. It's like, all right, well, let's just see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you put Alan Zolev in like any 95 kilo class at like probably a national level in America, and he's going to be pumping most of those guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. Kyle Davison has jumped in. He says Kiwi quick, which I think he's trying to push that nickname for you, but I still think Kiwi Sam sounds a bit more phonetically better. And he says David and Goliath stories all through arm wrestling. It's awesome. Absolutely. And Neil's index finger says that he will be pulling Uncle John on right hand at the same event, which is at the Full Brawl Grande Prairie, Alberta. And the stream, I think, will be posted on the day, which is awesome. I'll definitely be checking that out. But yes, I'm trying to remember who Neil's index finger. If you could help me out and find out who John is going against on the left. And I literally was talking to both guys yesterday, and I've forgotten who the other person is. And I can even picture like there's John on this side of the screen, and then it was like now I've got a blank of like who was talking. So I don't know.
Mm,
Oh, yeah, Uncle John
yeah,
is.
we're at a point where there's so many events happening in arm wrestling, you just don't know how to keep up with everything. You know, you've got so many different promoters and promotions going on. It's hard to watch everything, and yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he hasn't had the match officially approved yet, but he's just pushing for it. Okay. It's a good match. I'd like to see it. Jay Smith. Yeah, there you go. That's who he was going against. Far. Thank you. Oh man. But yeah, you're right. And when we look at what dates we want to book out for an event, I remember going to so I googled up, arm wrestling events on this day in America because I didn't want to clash with any of the major promotional things that are going on over there. And it's like, okay, they've got like 5 or 6 tournaments every single weekend for all year round. And it was like, wow, okay. Well, which one am I going to try to avoid? Any of the Winter Blast or any of the, really Knuckles Up or stuff like that. But the other ones, I'm just going to have to clash with them because they're on every weekend over there.
yeah. Well, that's what I've said in the past to one of my friends. I said, if you want to be a traveling arm wrestler, America's the place to do it because you could just travel to every state like once a month, and there'll be a tournament on, and you get the most exposure you can get. And I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's what John probably did when he was first starting out. He just went to every single tournament and pulled as many arms as he could just to get. That'd probably be his table practice, a tournament every weekend.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, he used to enter every class, and then he would win the majority of them, and walk away with the prize money that would have covered his expenses for going.
his appearance fee.
Pretty much, yeah. Would have been interesting back in the earlier days when he was doing that to see what the tournaments and everything were run like as compared to today, because whether there was more or whether there was less, it feels like there'd be a lot more these days, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a ref from Canada who trains with the Vancouver club, and he told me the first tournament he hosted had 1,500 attendants.
oh my god,
Yeah, and that was back in like the 80s, I think. Yeah,
wow.
yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy. The Drew has popped in. Hello, the Drew. He's 98 is live still. Yep, I'm delivering orders. Yep, that's fine. Yeah, 98% Arm Wrestling is a great channel, and I was on there about an hour ago on their stream. So yeah, they like to jump on, and they'll be on for 6 or 7 hours. So it can be hard to not clash, but it wasn't deliberate. We organised this very last minute last night, and it's like, what about tomorrow at midday? Yeah, sure, that'll do. But if
On
people
the
are
fly.
watching, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I'd rather. I mean, the good thing about these lives is that it stays there as a video afterwards, so people can go back at any time they want to watch it and watch it.
Yeah, exactly. What about yourself? Are you wanting to go have a match with someone at some point, or are you wanting to travel and pull with someone overseas?
It's strange, but it hasn't been my focus. Probably of the last year. I think since we started the AWE, it's more been about putting on matches that I want to see, as opposed to competing as much of it. And every time I think, okay, well, here's an event that we could do, or here's an idea, or here's a tournament we could run, I'm never sort of picturing myself entering and competing in it. Which, yeah, I don't know. It just isn't at the forefront of my thought process. But you asked me yesterday if we want to have a match, which we can do that. That's fine. I think when you asked me, I could barely think straight because I'd been on the table with Lass for about 40 minutes straight of him hanging on, trying to get through my bicep. I was like, I'm trying to read a menu and I can't even make out the words. Like, I was so exhausted. So
Yeah.
yeah, but no, we could do that for sure. The good thing about the club matches is that it is great experience, and
Mm.
I always say to people, try to get as many club matches as you can, because the only thing it affects is the ranking at the club. But it will allow you to, when you go to a bigger tournament or a bigger event, like you've had match experience, you've had ready go, you know, setups and starts, and you've learnt what you need to do when somebody is rested and they're 100% coming in against you. They're giving you absolutely everything they got, and you're doing the same for them. It is so different to anything you can replicate in training. So, there's no difference between a club match and being on a knuckles up match. Like, in terms of, you're going to get set up, you're going to have people watching, you're going to have a start, and there's going to be a finish. So whether or not it's on a massively viewed platform or whether or not it's just the 30 of us in that room that are watching, it's still, your actions will be the same. So the more often you can do it and the more you can expose yourself to those experiences, the better you're going to get at it and the more comfortable you're going to feel at it. Because I've seen people that, they've never had a match, they've only done training, and they feel phenomenally good in training. They're like, yeah, I'm crushing this guy, I'm feeling really good. They go into a tournament and they get destroyed. And it's like, because they're not used to the setups and they're not used to the pressure of having everyone standing there watching. And, so at somebody that they know they're stronger than, they know they're better than in training, beats them. It's like, how? It's like, well, they've had 12 super matches, you've had none. Like, you've never done this under a referee's start conditions. And, what were you expecting to come in and, having never done this? Yes, you're stronger, you're probably a better arm wrestler, but this is the actual arm wrestling part that you needed to work on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no tournaments for 4 or 5 months at a time, I mean, there's only one way that you can compete, and that's against your club mates in a friendly super match, just to see where you need to work on. I mean, and the good thing about like with you filming it is you can look back and say, okay, where am I getting beaten, and is it practice? Is it technique? Is it strength? Do I need to work on it in the gym, or do I need to work on it with my guys at the club and get them to work on that lane specifically with me?
Exactly right. Yeah, Neil's index finger says that super matches can elevate your table IQ because you can customize your training specific for your opponent.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all that part of arm wrestling that is different to training. Where training, you're just turning up, seeing who's there, and then jumping on, and away you go. And maybe you want to work on something, maybe you want to do this or do that. But when you've got an actual opponent that's like, well, this guy is really good at pressing, so you're going to have to really focus on how you're going to stop that press, or set up so that, and those that knowledge that you're going to get from working in those areas is so beneficial, and stuff that you wouldn't have worked on if you didn't have a reason to. And the reason is you're going up against the guy, and it's in 2 or 3 weeks time. It is going to happen. There is a final challenge here, there a purpose for this learnt knowledge. Whereas if you're just training all the time, it's like, yeah, you're improving and you're getting better, but you can get better a lot faster in very particular areas against other people's styles if you've got a match scheduled.
Exactly. I mean, if you're versing someone who's a proficient presser and they're going to hit the press, it's okay. What lane do I take to stop them engaging that press? Do I come inside and knock them off center, or do I pull them outside their shoulder and cause them to have to go sideways without their wrist?
Yeah, that's right. And it's the fun part about that is that game planning. And I mean, they obviously know that they're going to press. So that's where they're going to be like, well, he's either going to be doing this or he's either going to be doing that. And that's the things that they're going to be working on, is trying to prevent you from being able to stop them getting where they want to get to. So yeah, it's so beneficial for both parties to improve their game, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm phenomenal in the press, but I know this guy is really good at stopping me from getting there, and I'm going to have to get much better at implementing my game plan and where I need to get to, and working on, well, where does he stand? Maybe I'll look at different matches that he's had before and try to exploit something. But you wouldn't be doing any of that stuff unless you had the match schedule, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a good example is watching Mateorangi versus Lars Rubakin, because we all know how good Lars flop wrist pressed is, but we didn't know at that point how good his outside or hook game was. So for him, it was such a difficult task to figure out what lane to hit. Does he go lower and block his wrist, try cut him off center, or does he just try come outside and try outlast him? But trying to outlast someone on the top row versus in a flop wrist press is like, it's really difficult. You're probably not going to do it.
Yeah, especially if they get position as well. Like if they've got their body weight on there and they're sort of like, where you're pulling is just into their fingers and they can contain that quite comfortably, and they're not working that hard in that position to keep pressure on you, and you're giving it everything you got to be able to just stay there. And it feels like in that, when people flop, that it feels like it's a lot of arm as opposed to now I'm using frame, because it's like when you push, there's no resistance until right at the end, and it's a little bit weird. It's so strange to me when people flop back. I'm so not used to having pressure, and then like it just disappears, and then it's at the end again. It's very weird.
Yeah, that's why Kamil Jablonski is so dangerous, because of the fact he will give up his wrist in the setup because he wants to get his shoulder behind it. And he's got so much explosive power off center that you pretty much have to be fast enough to cut him off with it,
Yeah, what did you think of his match versus Michael Todd?
Michael Todd's looking very strong. I mean, that lift where he's consistently doing 60, 70 kilos of back pressure in that pronated, like Devin Larratt style, I mean, that translates so well to just static pressure and being able to have that strength to hold. And like, if Kamil can only generate 65 kilos of flop wrist pressure, and he can hold 70, he's doing that every single day. Like, chances are he's going to be conditioned to be able to absorb that trauma on his arm. Plus his bone lock and King's move. It's the perfect opponent. It was just another Jerry Catterett, and it's so hard to try outlast a King's mover, especially if they're very proficient and their arm doesn't extend past, that point there. Very difficult.
Yeah. He's broken it a couple of times, and now it's like fused into that position. It doesn't extend further or something.
Yeah, I don't know. He's gone through the wars the last couple of years, but yeah, like I'm glad to see him back and strong. But it's funny when you look at the American pullers, because the ones who we're relying on to come win are the guys who are all in their 40s and 50s. The younger generation, I'm just like, we need them to come up,
Yeah, I'd say probably the biggest standout has been Irakli for me anyway, in terms of the younger generation that is really pushing. And it's like, okay, well, this guy, he's really starting to look very dominant and still quite young, as opposed to, everyone else in that, as I said, the top 10, the top 20, I'd be lucky to have 2 or 3 that are not over the age of 40.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the guys from Kazakhstan, half of them are in their 20s, left-handed champion, what's his name?
Ongobayev?
Not Ongobayev, hook puller. He pulled Hermes Gasparini and just murdered him.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I think they do tend to fizzle out a lot earlier than everyone else in the world of arm wrestling, though. Isn't it interesting that they really come to their peak between sort of 18 and 30, and then it's sort of I don't know, just sort of move away from the sport, or they're not as competitive anymore, or they sort of have that flash in the pan of 4 or 5 years of absolute dominance, and then they've gone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would be very interesting to see how long these guys intend to pull for if you went to somewhere like Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan. What's the average age that they maybe settle down and have families and all that? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it is interesting, but I think they get sponsored, or they have state sponsorships or something as well. So maybe that's a reason. It's like, okay, if you want to do arm wrestling at this level, you can actually do it and be paid to do it and be supported. Whereas, obviously, the rest of the world, if you don't have that ability, it's like, well, it's you're fitting it in around the rest of your life. You're paying to go everywhere. You're paying, whether you've got club fees or whatever, but to drive yourself there and go and enter tournaments, and obviously you'd need to be earning a full-time wage outside of arm wrestling, which may contribute to why we see older people that maybe they've been able to get to a point where they've got enough funds that they can now go and travel and compete. Could be a factor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for any young guy who's getting an incentive to be like, you just show up, train, eat, and sleep, and we'll pay you to compete. I mean, that's just you. Why would you not do that?
Mm. Yeah, you
Especially
see
if,
that a
if
lot.
there's if the opportunities aren't great in your country, and there's a chance for you to make money to support your family. I mean, you're going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially if it's something that you enjoy and something that's fun, like arm wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, what about best matches? Some of your favorite matches that you've seen. You were talking about one a minute ago, but is there like an all-time favorite that you've got?
Mm, kind of hard for me to remember off the top. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head unless I was looking at arm wrestling. But yeah, definitely one of them is Ongabaya versus Irakli Zarakashvili. That's one of my top favorites, especially
Yeah,
when he loses his wrist and he just shoots in with cup and gains back pressure and comes out the top. That transition was fantastic. I think that's one of my favorite from a technical perspective. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it? That like all the nuances, and the more that you know about the sport, and the more that you learn about it, the more interesting it becomes from a viewership standpoint, because you understand like how incredible that move was, and somebody else who might just be watching it from a casual standpoint, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, do you know how bloody difficult that thing is he just did? And they're like, they have no idea, but it's like when you've got that level of knowledge to understand and appreciate how clever somebody was, it makes everything so much more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Another good match was David Daddy Can versus Evgeny Prudnik on the left. I know that there was him waiting around a long time between fouls to come back to the table, but like that was so close, that match. That was very, very close.
Absolutely, yeah. There's nothing better than a war when you've got it goes down to the last match, the last round. They slip, they go to strap. Maybe they both get one foul, and it's like, all right, well, this is it. This is the moment. You're either going to get your winner or loser right here, and
I
both guys
know,
are probably wrecked at that point. And
I know.
yeah,
Yeah,
you go.
Daddy Devikin's only like 25, 26 as well. He looks way older, but the same age as me. So it's just, and he pulled Artem Morozov, for was it right-handed world championship or just right-handed match, king of the table, and that was super close. So dude's a powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many amazing Eastern European pullers that you sort of tend to find out about. You find out about arm wrestling. Most people seem to through sort of Devon Larratt or YouTube, or and then. But it's like when you start going down that technical well as to, well, let's see some of the top pullers in the world. You're going to work your way over to Georgia and Kazakhstan and all the rest of it. It's like, okay, here we go. This is where we really start hitting the technique side of it.
Actually, one of the biggest surprises from a match perspective was when Adam Wawrinski made his debut against Bojan Simonov, and just like the amount of technical, just being able to hold him in a hook and then roll his way out through his hand. It was crazy. And his arm looked so massively pumped after the match. Like, dude's a
It
unit as
was
well. Yeah.
Wawrinski. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, didn't he have his phone? The thing I kept thinking was he was wearing one of those like phone clip things. How it was like you got those flip phones from like the
Yeah.
90s. He had one
Yeah.
of them like strapped to his like belt, and I was like, I haven't seen that look for like 20 years. Because people used to do that for some reason, and
Yeah.
they would like tie their phone to their belt instead of putting it in their pocket. But then when it would ring, they would be desperately scrambling to try to undo it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. With New Zealand's arm wrestling scene, can you tell us a little bit about where do you think the level is, and when you started to where it is now?
Yeah. So I think the level's very high in New Zealand. I think um, it's a very niche in a way that we've had a lot of gatekeepers for a very long time holding the top positions, and now we're at a position where the next generation is coming through, and they're showing a lot of potential and are very, very strong. I mean, we had guys come over for the East versus West Challenger series, and they were podiuming against the Aussies. So we held the Aussies for a long time at my club. We have held the Aussies in quite a high regard in terms of this is the Oceania standard, because you guys were competing against a lot of the Southeast Asian countries like Joffrey Jolly, Val and Lowe were coming over, and I think that the gap is starting to close. I think now, which is great. And I'd love to see New Zealanders do well on the stage. I mean, we had Ashley Hotia who went over to the East versus West. I think she won the left arm in
Yep.
Istanbul, which is amazing. And she hasn't been arm wrestling very long, but she's just a pinnacle of strength for women in New Zealand. I mean, 300 kilo equipped bench press, like to hold that much weight just in your wrists is amazing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And so who would be some of the top guys that you've got over there at this point in time? Obviously, we know Mano Waringi, Hannah Morris. We've
Yep.
got Charles
Uh,
Drury as well.
yep. Uh, we've got a couple guys from the South Island, which would be Ash Austin. He's very, very good. Another guy, Max McDonald. He's very, very strong as well. From Auckland, we have guys Corey Skinner, James Wells. Then we've got another guy from Tawamudu, Liam Street. He's very, very technical, very strong wrists. But it's just like the next generation coming in, and the levels in terms of competition are getting much tighter. So you can't be off on a competition, for example.
Mm.
Also, we've had guys John Leach as well, who went to IFA and won a left-handed world championship. Anton as well, he won a right-handed at IFA as well. Both very, very strong. John's looking very, very strong at the moment on his left arm, especially.
Mhm.
Um, there's a few, like there's a lot of names that I'm probably not listing. Another guy, one more would be Dan from my club as well. Dude's a unit for 70 kilos. He's one of those guys that could pull in a 90 kilo class, and I think would podium, in my opinion.
Wow. What
Yeah.
about Thomas Fitzy?
Oh yes, Thomas Fitzy. Like I said, I haven't. I need to get round to all them. I don't know what Thomas Fitzy is doing at the moment, but he's always a threat. I think he could go into any class and probably podium as well. Just his explosive press is just so difficult, and because any guy who's tall with long levers finds it so much easier to get right up behind their arm, and then when they come down, it's a lot of surface area. So yeah, he's very dangerous. A lot of guys, a few guys from that Hamilton club as well, very, very strong. So yeah, if I'm
Did
not
you?
mentioning any names, I'm sorry, but
Oh, that's all right. I'm sure. Yeah, there's that many people out there, but
yeah,
just to have
exactly.
a hand. But yeah, did you see the match with Thomas Fitzy and Josh Barker at AWE2?
Very close, very, very
Yeah,
close. It was just who won center. That was it. If Josh got onto his bicep, he wasn't going to pull him out, and if Thomas got onto Josh's bicep, he wasn't going to pull him out. So it was,
yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool to see a Kiwi come over and beat the number one Aussie. You know, so it was a very, very good match in my opinion. Very good matchup.
Yeah, it was. I felt bad for Josh because he had literally gotten out of hospital. I think 2 days prior to the event, he had an infection in his elbow, which I had said for weeks, like you need to get that checked out. He's like, nah, and then it just getting worse, and then he finally did, and then he was on antibiotics, and that didn't help, and then he had to get surgery, and so he had I don't know, a big something or another taken out of his elbow,
Mm,
like 2 days before, and he's still like, no, I'll still compete. So you can see his arm start bleeding like
yes,
halfway
that's
through
right.
that
Yeah.
match, and he's wiping the pad out after every pull, like it's covered in blood.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Is you just risk it or you don't. I mean, I personally wouldn't pull if I had surgery and was going to risk more damage. But I mean, some guys just don't mind. They'll send it.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we big fans, and that match especially for me was One way it was almost when you want to watch it like this, look through your fingers because it's like it's two presses going against each other and two presses that are just like incredibly willing to throw the body on the line. It was like they're both going to do it and they're both going to hit so freaking hard in that center. And I knew that Josh's elbow was sore. But yeah, I was just like, man, if there's going to be an injury in any match, it's going to be this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's arm wrestling. It's just the risks associated with pulling a match. So you have to decide whether or not it's worth breaking your arm for a match sometimes. I mean, if you've got $100,000 waving under your nose, maybe that's worth it. But other than that, I don't think breaking my arm for 6 months off is worth it for an arm wrestling match.
One of my favorite moments in arm wrestling is it was Jerry and Michael when they went against each other and they had that absolute war, and it was in the straps, and I think each match took about each round took about 7 minutes or something. And Jerry was on top of Michael's hand, but he just couldn't get through it. But they were stuck there. They were stuck there for ages. And the funny part of this was before the match started, one of the girls had come out and she'd waved the money, like, this is the prize money. I think it was $5,000 or something. And then they put that on the table. And then Jerry's on top of Michael's arm, and he is sweating like so much. He is dripping. It's dripping down all over the money. And like it got to the point where the money starts like floating like around the table. And I was just like, man, if I won that money, I'd be like, can I have some other money? That money is like completely saturated with Jerry's sweat.
Jerry created his own river channels on the table through the chalk.
It's like the money is floating and it falls off the side of the table into his pocket,
Yeah.
Oh man. But the most I've seen somebody sweat ever was Todd Hutchings at AWE2 when he went against Mataringi Hadamoris. And my God, I've never seen anything like it, because it was maybe the third or fourth round, and Todd had come over. He was standing right in front of our commentary section, and it was like he had poured a bottle of water on his head. Like it was pouring off. And I think I said, like, it looks like he's standing in a shower. Like that's how much it was leaping off of him. He was so sweaty. It was unbelievable. But he was working really, really hard. That match was a lot closer than what the scoreline would read, because I think it came out at 4-1 or something like that. But it was such a close match, and credit to Heather Morris for sticking in there for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting when like the score doesn't sometimes reflect the match as well. But people just look at the score and say, "Oh, he lost 4-1." But sometimes it's literally just the fouls that were stopping a pin, really.
Yeah.
He could have like literally got a pin, but his elbow came off right at the end.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. What do you think about the rule set that they run with in, say, East versus West, or where they get a restart for a foul, even if they're fouled in a losing position?
I think it'd be one of those things you'd have to try it out for yourself and see if it's something you actually enjoy. But I think it saves some guys. Like I've seen it with Petrenko, where some guys will be in a position and they'll just be like, "Okay, I wouldn't want to restart." So I don't know. Maybe call it as a foul for just intentional elbow foul if you're lifting off. But I think it does. I think it allows the intelligence of an arm wrestler to come out if they can take advantage of the rule set.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all, and I
Fair
think
enough. Yeah.
It's like I've seen so many times when somebody is about to be pinned, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just lift my elbow. Now I get stunned all over again." And
Yeah,
it's like,
I can see why that is. Maybe they get like maybe they only get one during the whole match, and that's it. Like you get, how in tennis you get like one challenge, you get two challenges, and then that's it. You can't do any more. Especially if you're pulling like 7 rounds for a title match. I mean, you couldn't be doing that every single arm wrestling. Maybe you're like 1 or 2 for the whole match, and then that's it. There's a limit, because you can't just keep taking the mickey and doing that because you think you're going to lose. I mean, that's not fair sportsmanship.
No, that's what we're seeing. That's what we see take place all the time, and it was so frustrating to watch a lot of their matches because it's almost that you've got to wait until both guys are on two fouls or a foul each before they'll actually get a result because you know that
Mm.
if this dude's winning, the other guy's just going to foul so that he gets another shot at it, and then if the other guy's winning, then he's going to foul, and then it's like, all right, well, let's get to a point where they both have. If they foul again, they're going to lose. So this is actually going to be the result. It
Yeah,
should be.
it is one of those things as well for me. Looking at big competitions, world championships at WAF, where guys will celebrate because they won on elbow fouls and they'll get
Yeah.
excited, or they'll be in a match and they'll be so worried about yelling at the ref that the guy's fouling that they won't actually just pull the match. It's one of those things that really just grinds my gears about the world like arm wrestling at the world championships. That's one of the things that annoy me.
Yeah, I think that, and we've sort of talked about this a lot on the Arm Wrestling Buzz podcast, arm wrestling hasn't quite found its ideal form yet. Like in terms of the perfect scenario for not only the competitors but for the audience that's watching as well. Because if you've
Mm.
got super strict rules, it's incredibly boring to watch. If
Yeah,
you've got
exactly.
too lenient rules, then it just becomes a bit of a farce.
Yeah,
So.
you want. Oh,
Mm.
sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say you always want wins by pins, not by fouls.
Exactly right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, a win by a foul. It'd almost be. I'd be like, can we just do another one? Like, I don't want to win like that. Let's just do another round. We'll say I've got the win officially, but let's just have an actual arm wrestle.
Yeah, or even if they like in a finals they increased it to three elbow fouls or something, if they were at a finals at a tournament, just so it's not guys aren't just winning a world championship because the guy elbow fouled twice. I just think that's not great.
Yeah, it's not a fun aspect to see people win that way, and yeah, for the audience's perspective, for the competitors' perspective, it's like, oh, you elbow foul. Oh, by the way, you're the world champion. It's like,
I
oh,
know. I mean,
what?
that's just it's the same thing in fighting. Like you see how upset fans get when someone loses by disqualification.
Yes.
I mean, it's just they all just think that if he's intentionally hitting or eye poking, they just get so upset with him because of the fact he was trying to actually cheat the rules to win.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It is a frustration, but in terms of finding the perfect format, I don't think we're there yet. But I
Mm,
love the fact that so many different promotions are out there trying different things and trying new things, and we're seeing like different table designs from like MAC. We're seeing different rule sets from from what we do with AWE, and there's all sorts of different ideas and different straps and different this, and so people are still experimenting with, well, let's try this and see how that works, and maybe let's do like we did a strap only tournament. So all matches started in straps. So we didn't have, we got Ashley Hoeta in. She says, I hope you're doing well over there, bro.
hey, hello.
Always good to see Ashley. Nominated for New Zealand's Woman of the Year as well. I don't know if you
Mm.
were aware of that, but
Oh, well deserved. Well deserved.
yes, I think she's in the finalists, but we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, she's doing big things over in New
Awesome.
Zealand, and not only in powerlifting but in arm wrestling as well. So
Great.
yeah, and left arm, what was it? The East versus West Challenger Series winner, like 6 months into arm wrestling, unbelievable.
Yeah, just super strong. So it's great. It's just good that we're getting some women, even from the Oceania region, who are very competitive, even at a world level, which is awesome. I always think it's good when people are being successful.
Yeah, for sure. It feels like with Australia and New Zealand that we have almost like a brothership or sistership or whatever. It's very much that, yes, we have our own rivalry, but it's a friendly rivalry, and it's like the culture is so similar in terms of like, we're so far from everywhere else in the world that it's like this is our region, and everyone
Mm,
that lives here understands the same sort of cultural differences and gets along very well. So we definitely celebrate New Zealand's victories internationally, and I'm not sure if the reverse is the same, that they would see Australia and think that they were doing well, but it definitely sort of highlights that this part of the world is improving whenever we see New Zealand doing well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys did really well at the Olympics. Like, I mean, I think, would that be the best you guys ever placed in terms of world level? Was it fourth place you guys came?
I sure. My watching of the Olympics consisted of seeing replays of Ray Gun's breakdance, and that was literally the only part of it that I saw. I didn't even know what the medal tally was. I haven't looked at when you're doing the arm wrestling stuff like 24/7. It can be hard to find time to
Oh,
find
fair
everything
enough.
else, especially the restrictions. Like I just wanted to see, like with that ray gun thing, I just wanted to see the whole event, like because they just kept replaying that 10 or 15 seconds of her looking stupid, and I was like, but is the whole of like was her whole routine stupid or just that bit? And it took me about half an hour to be able to search through the multitude of sites to be able to find the whole like routine, because it's
Yeah.
so restricted on copyright. It's not on YouTube. It's not on any of the streaming platforms. Yeah, I think I ended up having to go to like NBC with a VPN to be able to like just watch this routine. It was so restricted. It was very
Mm.
frustrating.
Yeah, it doesn't give the full story. There's always two sides to a story, and it's sort of looking at the facts and not just what's people's opinions, you know.
Mm. Did you play any other sports apart from arm wrestling? Were you involved in rugby or anything?
Um, when I was quite a bit younger, I sort of dabbled in little different sports, as most Australian Kiwi kids do, a bit of footy, a bit of football, trying different things out. But yeah, I was just mainly into lifting weights at the gym, and just always like the idea of being strong. And then when you come and train at an arm wrestling club, you're just like, okay, this is real men's strength. This isn't picking up dumbbells. This is different. It's like when I went and tried jiu-jitsu about 2 years ago. I just got manhandled, and I was like, yeah, the strength is just different here as well. It's not there is some arm wrestling components to it in terms of like grip strength and arm power, but being able to manipulate your opponent and you know ragdoll them is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so much about leverage and technique. And if you're going into a gym scenario, it's like, okay, you can get stronger in these movements, under resistance and under weight. But when you're practically applying it in a grappling sense, it can be negated so easily by somebody that just knows how to manipulate your leverage points. And yeah, it's such an interesting aspect to think, well, hey, I've been in the gym for 20 years. I should crush this dude. And then all of a sudden you're getting choked unconscious within 12 seconds. And it's like, how is this? What?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not sure what your sporting background is. Did you do much before arm
uh,
wrestling?
yeah, a few. I started playing tennis when I was quite young, and I moved to table tennis actually, and I played that at a very high level. I was doing that 6 days a week with a state squad, and we would enter tournaments around the country every weekend. Ended up being ranked third in Australia for under 20 men's table tennis. But yeah, that was my thing there. But I was, again, like you said, very attracted to getting strong and getting you know, uh, the physique that I wanted to achieve wasn't the table tennis physique.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but yeah, karate, and then got into lifting weights, and that was my thing. And I used to train twice a day, and I still train 6 days a week in the gym lifting weights. But that's sort of been my primary focus. But I have done grappling and jujitsu and stuff as well, but
Mm.
not at a high level. Just more so to support when I was doing security.
Yeah, that's the great thing about combat sports, especially like arm wrestling, where a lot of it is manipulation of your opponent's power and hand. not everyone's going to be able to go into the gym and bench press 4 plates or squat 300 kilos, but arm wrestling, you can have pretty quick success if you can do it right. You know what I mean? Like you can beat guys who you would, in a realistic scenario, be lifting much more weight in the gym than you. So that's just the difference, and I think that's the attraction of it, is that it's a different level of strength, and that it's not just being able to pick up a weight; it's being able to test how your tendons and bones hold up against someone pulling maybe 50 kilos of pressure against your arm.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Hello to Dakota Shipton. He is one of the guys from Canada, along with Neil Pickups Index Finger, Brian Parliament.
Nice.
So yeah, they run a podcast over there called the Through the Fingers podcast. They do a
Oh,
tremendous job with that. Yeah,
Nice.
and all three of the guys from that show went to an event 2 weekends ago, I believe, and all three of them got very dominant victories. So
Fantastic.
yeah, it was
Awesome.
great to see. Yeah, Dakota with one of the fastest pins I've ever seen on someone.
Nice.
I don't know if the guy missed the jump or Dakota's just that quick. It was like somebody's arm was just flops there, and then he's just bang. It was like, oh, wow, wow.
blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah, it was incredibly fast. So how do you go against people like that? Like you said, you're not a super fast starter. I'm not either, but
just you'll either stop them or you won't, I suppose. Yeah. It's really hard to say. Like, to come down to the day, but yeah, it's also because one of the most difficult people I've set up with is someone who actually gave me no load, and he was very fast at the start. They're the most difficult people to set up with because you can't gauge what lane they're going to hit or how much power they're going to generate off the hit. So you sort of have to almost in some ways be quicker than them off hearing the go, if that makes sense. In some ways you have to sort of cheat and be a bit early because they're hearing for the, if it's like a WAF setup, they're listening for the I before the go, like the red D, the Y.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why I got rid of that ready part of that, because it didn't make any sense. And people had asked me for quite a while, like, why do you say ready go? Like, but they're allowed to go on ready, and it's like, and now it's become ready go. It's like that. Why even have that? Why don't just say go? So I was like, that's a good point. Actually, I'm just going to say go. So that's why I just say go now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things that is easy to train for as well because you are expecting ready go, and depending on your ref, if it's ready go, it's really easy to like build that muscle memory of listening out for the certain vowels or certain the Y, for example, hearing that, and then you're already going before he says go.
Mm.
Because a lot of the guys are like, I'm going on ready. Like, I'm not going on go. I'm going on like the ready.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense though, because it's like
No.
you're supposed. It should be there, like ready, go. Like you don't
Yeah.
go until you say go.
Yeah. Well, don't move's great. Exactly.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't. It's just becomes gibberish. It's not even ready go. It's you just yelling.
yeah.
But that's why don't move. That's why don't move is good because it's clear. Do not move. Go.
Yes.
Because you can't say don't move. Go. It makes no sense saying it.
Don't
Yeah.
move, don't look at me, and don't make eye contact. Go.
Yeah. It's like when Peter Griffin says, "I can say the whole alphabet in one word," and he just screams.
Yes, I love that clip. He says, "I can name all states and capitals in."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Second. And then he goes. So good. Frances chipped in. She says that is a Hamza move, no load and smash. Absolutely, yes. Hamza is incredibly fast off the start as well.
Difficult to deal with.
Everywhere. Yeah, for sure. Dakota Shipton says, my dad does that, no load and super fast hit, faster than me, and it's very hard to set up with. Wow, if he's faster than you, he's probably uncapturable on camera because yeah, it's lightning fast. But,
yeah, you just feel like they're giving you everything, but they're actually not.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I can go wherever I like, and then it's
Mm,
like, go, and you've lost.
yeah.
Oh,
And the thing
right.
is, when you try to load or fight for center and they're giving it to you, you actually get told that you need to sort it out. Like, you know, you
Yeah,
need to come back to center or you need to flatten your wrist. It's like you're cupping in.
yeah, because they've allowed you, and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to pull you to my. Then it's like, hang on, referee's like, wait a minute, you're right. Stop. I can see you're putting the pressure on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're just allowing their hand to like be manipulated. So any
Yeah,
movement is
exactly.
going to come from you. Have you had a favorite match that you've been involved in, whether it was tournament or whether it was a super match?
Um, oh, I had a really good match with a guy called Neil from New Zealand. He had a really strong left arm, and it was literally like we had one match where I couldn't pull through his side pressure, and he couldn't pull through my bicep, and I just sat in the middle and tried to outlast him, and we were sitting there for about a minute before he elbow fouled. My arm was completely pumped by the end of it. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely the wars is what I enjoy. Just having a big war with someone.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like, oh, my favorite match was just pinning somebody so easily 5 times in a row.
yeah, exactly. And what about yourself?
Favorite match. I think anytime I've been on the table with Last Spother, the Berserker, we
Mm,
always have an absolute war. I
yeah.
don't think I've won any of them, but to me, it's been a win. Like
Yeah.
just the fact that it's just I'm catching him and he cannot get through, and then I'm bringing it back, and then it's just an absolute battle back and forth. Where he just is astounded that he can't finish that last 2 inches.
Mm, yeah, like it's interesting with a guy like Lust because he will be in a strict position, but then he will just surge back up and you'll be pulled out of position and then he'll gain something from there. Those guys are super dangerous.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I'm just looking up Dakota's match because I wanted to show you this actually. If it's
Yeah, no worries.
of this speed of this. I'm not sure if this is the one, but we'll find out in a second. Oh, that was a very fast pin, but it was an elbow foul. I don't think that was the one that I'm referring to. There's one of these that it's. I mean, that was fast, but was it unfortunately with an elbow foul on top? Um, let's see if we get it in the replay here and the restart. Dakota's the one on the left-hand side, obviously with the moustache. Oh, they both got moustaches on the left-hand side without the hat. Oh, he's got the center. Look at the cheeky
Yeah.
look he gives the crowd here. It's always good, when you win a dominant position and then you sort of stare out to the crowd. You're like, yes, I know I've got this.
Yeah.
I reckon it's in the last round. Just maybe, because I think he's standing on the other side when it happens. This is fun watching me trying to find a certain moment in a video. This was quite a fun event called Armsageddon, and I was very impressed with the production that they put on.
Yeah, it looks really great. Awesome.
Yeah, they had awesome walkouts, big crowd. They had their photos, a video playing up on the big screen TVs and everything. The referees, I think, did a great job as well. Can't see if it must be an earlier one. It's probably happened so fast that I've actually gone past it. I swear he's on the other side. Sorry, guys, I'm taking up time doing this, but it is worth watching. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep searching for it while we're talking. But what about yourself in terms of goals for maybe the next 12 months? Are you looking at as many super matches as you can get? Are you looking at any tournaments in particular that you're trying to aim for?
If there's a tournament locally, I'll jump in and have a go. I think the objective for now is what me and my friend have discussed, and he came up with a theory called like expression, generation, and containment. So there's like the trifecta of strength. So the containment phase is being able to contain the amount of strength you're generating without having injury. So working on just being uninjured and being able to compete in a tournament without injury is my main goal at the moment. So I would like to have a few more matches just for practice and just to see how I'm adjusting in matches. But other than that, it's just staying injury free. I think that's one of the main things for arm wrestling, just not having injuries or niggles going on.
Yeah, exactly. You are dealing with, you had some pain in your upper arm for a while, is that?
Yeah, when I pulled Tyler, I like the 2 weeks before that, after the table practice, I had like rotator cuff pain, and then during the match, it just flared right up. So really felt like I lost access to all my power in that. But yeah, it is what it is. It's just life of an arm wrestler. The harder you train, the more things are going to flare up, and just try not to tear anything. Really, that's the main thing, because it's all right having a bit of inflammation. You can treat that, but if you tear a muscle or tear a tendon, that's a year. That's could be 6 months to a year of serious healing you need to do. So
Yeah,
just
that's
being
right.
mindful of that. Yeah.
I think I found the moment here. Let's let this play out and watch the speed on this hit. Now that I've talked it up, it's probably not as fast.
That's all right.
All right, getting set up here. Look at that.
Yeah. It just looks like he missed the go, Mr. Shipton.
Well, Dakota is
yeah, sorry, Sorry, the American. Yeah, the American. Yeah, it just looks like he missed the go, but yeah, that's just arm wrestling, man. Like if you're fast enough, and the guy only realizes, oh god, I'm already at the pin pad when he said go. So
that's right. Yeah, just super, super quick. And it can be frustrating to lose in that manner because, you haven't even applied any pressure. You haven't even done anything and you've been pinned. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, you've got no information. You've got, like, if you film it, you've got nothing to go off from table in terms of training. It's just get faster. That's really it, or get stronger. That's the only two things. If you get beaten by speed, it's either you get faster or you get stronger. So you can't gauge technical wise what you need to do better.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it is. It's sort of a lose-lose situation because you don't get any information. You lost the match, and the opponent didn't expend any energy either. So, much energy. Yeah, it's almost like people who have that technique do so well in tournaments because they can just run through, 5 or 6 people with just half a second of energy, and then if you get involved in a war or something, or several wars leading up to the finals, and they're completely fresh and you're wrecked.
Exactly. It's like if you had to go into 75 category and your first opponent's Octave Talgat, you're just like, well, I'll just lay over and lose because he's gonna be so fast. I'm not going to be able to stop his hit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I think we might look at wrapping this up. But if anyone has any final questions for Sam, we might go for another couple of minutes and we'll finish things up here. But we'll see if anyone wants to comment or say anything before we finish up. But what is so if somebody is looking at arm wrestling in New Zealand, easiest way to get involved in it is it local club? Is it are you there's certain cities that are better than others in terms of the amount of clubs that they've got, or what would they be looking to do there?
So you can go onto the New Zealand Arm Wrestling website, so newzealandarmwrestlingfederation.com, and that will give you a list of clubs in different cities. New Zealand is very spread out, so it is very difficult. You may have to travel a while depending on where you're staying, but if you're in Auckland, there's a variety. There's a club in Christchurch, there's a club in Otago University, there's a few guys that train in Palmerston North, Hamilton. You've got a club up north in Whangarei. And it is growing. There's clubs popping up all the time. We have guys asking in Hawke's Bay and Rotorua, Tokoroa. So it is growing, but it's just getting numbers is the main thing. I mean, if you only pulling the same guy, if there's only 2 of you training, week in, week out, you're going to get bored eventually because one of the guys isn't going to learn, or you're just pulling the same opponents, you're not learning, or you just sort of lose motivation because he doesn't turn up. He only turns up once a month or so, or when you have to force him to come to training. So
That sounds like you're speaking from personal experience there.
it's also it's talking to guys who've had that experience as well. But yes, I know what it's like having to lead a horse to water sometimes, trying to get guys to come train. So
Yeah, I used to drive to like on the way to training, and I would pick people up from their house and be like, "No, you're coming." Uh,
yeah, get in the car.
that's right. And I'll
Yeah,
go from
exactly.
place to place to place, just because I knew that if I didn't, I'd turn up. There would be just me there. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's one of those things because a lot of clubs are free. People don't feel the need to stay committed to something because there's no financial burden on them. So they're just like, well, it's free. I just turn up when I want. But that's when that's when you get guys who stay the most loyal and are the most committed when they actually genuinely love doing the sport and love training. Like those are the guys you want in your club.
yeah, exactly. It's almost like at this point in time, on maybe in the last. Only recently we've seen people making money from arm wrestling, but prior to that, everyone who's involved in the sport is involved in it because they love it, and that's
Yeah.
their thing. And they're passionate about it. They're doing it because they love arm wrestling, as opposed to I'm doing this to try to get a lot of money or a lot of fame or whatever.
Yeah. If you're doing this for money, you're in arm wrestling for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
Your motivation will quickly fizzle out, because the money's just not there. I mean, it's
that's
fine running events, but if you're trying to run two events in like 2 months, you're gonna struggle to get the numbers, I think, because people just don't have the cash at the moment to be constantly pumping into tournaments, especially if they want to do multiple classes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is one of those aspects of the sport. But I do love the fact that the people that are in it are in it because they absolutely love it. And yeah, as we said, it's only a very few people, select few that are at the pinnacle of the sport that are making any sort of money at all. And yeah, but hopefully we'll see that sort of. I would like to see people have more monetary reward for the effort that they put in. It's like not only do you love the sport, but you're also able to make a living from it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they get more sponsors on board, that's the main thing. I mean, that's how bodybuilders make their money, through sponsorships. That's sort of the way going forward, but it is very hard, especially because some arm wrestlers are very good but very introverted, so they're not wanting to be on social media all the time making posts, and it's a very niche market to advertise to as well. You can't if you're a bodybuilder with a good physique, it's much easier to appeal to a young audience of guys wanting to get better and look a certain way, instead of being like, here, here's me training my pronation 3 times a week. Come train with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I guess the difference, or probably the only real major benefit, is that it is very different, and it's like you've got that novelty factor that is still prevalent, where people are like, what is this? What are you doing? Like, what is that thing? Pronation? What? And
Yeah.
maybe they would explore it a little bit more. Whereas for me, like if I'd see somebody doing bicep curls, I'm like, next. Like I've seen a million people do bicep, like it's, but you got to have something unique, or maybe a guy's doing a bicep curl on one leg on a fitball while he's on fire, and I might watch that.
Yeah. I mean, seeing a dude take off his top to do a check-in of how he's going for his comm is not exciting for me. I don't get excited for that.
Right, exactly.
Seeing a
Unless
dude,
you you
sorry.
go, you go.
I was like, seeing a guy one arm curl 50 kilos. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Like that's powerful.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to see somebody do that, just look at Stretch. He can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Some guys are just freaks of nature.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no worries. Well, we might finish this up here. Is any social media things that you have out there that you want to push, or if people want to get in contact with you about anything, or are you just happy to be an arm wrestler and have your matches sort of put
I'm
up?
just
And
I'm just happy to exist. Yeah, I'm not a social media guy, but yeah. If anyone has any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll answer them on behalf of Matt. So
yeah, No worries at all. All right. Well, thank you again for jumping in. It is Kiwi Sam, or Sam Busby, as his real name, as his friends like to be called. But all right, we might give that one double bicep to finish things off. Got to make sure that is seen by the lawyers. They will always check that, and I don't want to get sued. So, but thank you for jumping on, Sam, and thank you for everyone.